Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Wraith, and today I'm going to tell you a few ways on how to counter gunline armies. By gunline armies, I mean armies with a hell of a lot of shooting. So, first thing that jumps into my head is Serpent Horde. You can go for quite a shooty Rivendell list. Even Rohan can be quite shooty. But yeah, there's quite a few. You've got the Mirkwood Ranger list, which is pretty much, I mean, they don't count towards their bone limit, they're rangers. So they could literally bring as many as they want, as long as they've got the points from. So I thought I'd make a video on people who want to say, no, I'm not having this. We're gonna counter this, and we're gonna destroy your cowardly bows, okay? I am one of those people who uses cowardly bow gunline lists as well, so don't get me wrong, they are good. But there's always a way to counter things, that's why I love this game. So, the first thing I've got, don't know what that was, if anyone heard that. Okay, anyway, the first thing I've got is deployment. How do you want to deploy? Okay, so before you have a game, you usually have a little eyeball of what the enemy's got. And if I see Serpent Horde, for instance, and I see quite a lot of bows that he's got, model-wise, I'm going to think, right, I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to deploy. And there are a couple of things you can do, right? And I'm going off a generic list. I mean, this works for most lists anyway, even if you go cavalry, heavy, yeah, anything really. I like to deploy in oblique order. So what that is I will have one of my flanks a lot heavier, so more reinforced than another flank. So most of my army will be, for example, on my right flank. And you have to deploy the bulk of your force a bit later than your enemy if you can, because if they get a whiff of what you're doing, it's not going to work. Basically what it is that if you concentrate your army on one flank and they've already put quite a lot of their bows across the battlefield nice and evenly, you will deny quite a lot of shots in the initial turns. They'll take time to move, things like that, to try and to get into range, and hopefully at which point you are most of the way up the board and close enough to do whatever you need to do, i.e. combat, i.e. grab objectives. Yeah, and the quickest thing you want to do is to get into combat. Okay, you can leave couple of units. Everyone should have a little bit of cavalry if you've got it available to you to run off and grab objective later on, but initially you want to crash into combat and avoid those shots. If they're playing evil, you're still getting in the way because you're in combat. It's better than being shot out in the open. That's one way you can do it. The other way, some people do it, and it depends how tough your army is. If you're relatively tough, you can pull this off, or if you've got a hell of a lot of models, you can pull this off. It's where you go extremely strong in the centre. So we're going to try and punch through the enemy. So you've got most of your force in the centre, and you just heroic march it up the board. And that's the other thing, you want to be using heroic march, okay? If you're making notes, which no one is, write heroic march, because you want to be getting up there as quick as possible. And once you hit into their centre, you just try and split the enemy force into two halves, and at which point the archers will have to choose what targets they're going to shoot at. You can minimise the amount of shots coming in at, things you don't want to get shot at. So that's two ways. So it's all about deployment. Attached to deployment, my other note or tip is terrain. If you are playing casually and you just see there's no terrain on the board, or you've got a little hut in the middle of the board, that's not good enough. Okay, middle of strategy battle game, you need a good amount of terrain to play it right, in my opinion, because it will stop things like that, and it just adds another level of depth to the game. So you want to be looking at deployment, and not just the initial deployment. Oh right, I'm going to be behind a wall now when I put my models down. You've got to look later on. Where can you move to? Okay, think a few turns ahead. I'm going to be moving down there, and I'll have cover on my right, which is where the archers are, from that brick wall, for example. But if you deploy in an entrenched position, like behind walls, initially, you can sit there all game if you want, but if there's no other cover to grab, then it's pointless, because you want to be getting closer to the enemy. So, yeah. Along with, always try and keep terrain between you and shots. It just makes it a lot easier. And then always try and keep friendly models between you and high value targets, i.e. your leader or anything like that. Anything you don't want to get shot too much. So if you've got a big old troll that they're all going to try and shoot down, you can more than afford a few orcs or a few goblins to stick between the shots and that troll, just to make it a little bit harder to get to that troll or leader. Then we've got, and not all armies have access to it. So the first 2 points is kind of like, overall, everyone can do that. Everyone can do that pretty much. Obviously, we've got like reserves, so tactical reserves or whatever you want to call them. So things that can appear on board later in the game, i.e. goblin mercenaries have a lovely ambush. So they can appear in different parts of the board. So you can just ambush their archers. And even if they die, it doesn't matter, because for however many turns they keep them tied up in combat, that's how many turns you've stopped them from shooting, which is their job. Perfect. What else have we got? I think the Watcher in the Water is a fantastic model for such things, because yeah, you have to rely on a roll-off to see when he is ready to appear, so you can't choose as of such, but still having a Watcher in the Water just rock up, and he can displace enemy models. They move out the way as he comes up, so you can literally have him come up underneath all these archers and just wreak havoc straight away. You can use tentacles to fire in and kill their leader, or their warband leader, their captain. You can do all sorts of shenanigans. If you drop him in there, there's no way they're going to be shooting at your army. They're going to be shooting at the 200-point octopus that has just turned up under their feet, which is still scary, okay? And you have to pay 200 points for that to work. But the Watcher in the Water is actually fantastic. So there we go. He's worth it, in my opinion. That's reserves crossed off. Then, the last little thing you can do, well, not the last, I'll go over more in a minute, but the last little thing you can do is use any kind of spellcaster that has blinding light, okay? And there's a couple out there. There is the Lady Galadriel, which is a massive reason why a lot of people bring her. She's got blinding light and she's got banish, which people love to kill wraiths and shades and things like that with. Basically, what blinding light does is when you're shooting, everything within 6 inches of Galadriel, or all friendly models, can only be hit by a natural roll of a 6, which is massive. Then we've got, for the evil guys, we've got the Shadow Lord, who we can bring. He is a Mordor model, so if you can ally with Mordor, you can bring him, or if you play Mordor, happy days. But 120 points, you can use a point of will each turn, and he's got 14 of them, and it does exactly the same. Everything within 6 inches of him who are friendly can only be hit on a natural roll of a 6. Or it just says on a 6, so I guess you can might it and stuff. I'm guessing that's the same with Blinding Light. And, of course, Gandalf the White has it. And the most iconic scene that I can think of is when he's blasting off the Blinding Light to scare off the Ringwraiths as they're attacking Faramir and his warband retreating back to Minas Tirith. He also charges in Helm's Deep in the films and blinds a bunch of Uruk-hai, so they lift their pikes up as well. So, yeah, they're the models who can do it. So if you've got access to it, happy days, you might as well use it. 'Cause 6 inches is pretty good. It can protect things you don't want to get shot at. That's it. It won't protect your whole army, though. So, you've got the deployment. So my suggestion is Oblique Order, just because I love Oblique Order, and it's amazing. And then when you get into combat as well, you can just absolutely crush people. Reserves. So any kind of tactical reserves or to be deployed later. And there's quite a few. I only came up with them two as the first things that jumped into my head. But saying that, you've also got scenarios on your side where people can rock up in different parts of the board. And that will really help you if you're playing a gunline army. Because sure, they can shoot at you, but at least they'll be spread out and you can deal with them warband at a time if you roll luckily enough. What else have we got? We have got terrain, using terrain to your advantage. Okay, so perfect. And then we've got Blinding Light and the Shadow Lord. So they're the top ways on how to deal with gunline armies. Other than that, it's basically combat. So get into combat. So coming with that, if you want to get into combat, what's the best way? You want to be fast and you want to get in there quick, don't you? So if you have anything that has fly in it, That's a brilliant way of shooting them up and engaging these archers. If you've got, cavalry, they're going to be a pain to try and slow down, but you will be shot on the way in. So it's hard. But if you bring, say, more Moria, you can bring a few bat swarms. They're quite expensive, but bat swarms are always in Moria lists because they're amazing. And if you've got a spare one, don't be afraid to keep shooting them up towards the enemy and engaging their bowmen. Along with that, we've got the new models, the Creebane, Crerbane, the freaking bat eagle, not eagle, raven things. Ravens, flock of ravens. They're amazing for it because they're 20 points and they literally sit on objectives, or they tie up enemy models, or they help you see people with Stalk Unseen. And that's perfect for them because that's what they want to do. You can fly them straight up the board and engage these pesky archers. Along with that, they can only ever be hit on the roll of a natural 6 as well. So they're very good at fighting against shooty armies. Very good for my Dunlandings. I'm happy with that. Very happy with that. So they're my tips and tricks on how to deal with gun lines. Please let me know in the comment section down below if this is A, helpful, and B, a problem you've been having with certain armies. So let me know down in the comment section below. And let me know how you deal with shooty lists, because there are a lot, because the Heredrum gun line is absolutely devastating. I know it because I use it. It's horrendous. And it's very good. Mind you, I don't really use it in... I do use it in friendly games, but with the knowledge that it is going to be a competitive friendly game. I'm trying out this list for an event at some point. So, yeah. Let me know what you think. If you are one of these people using gun lines, tell me if there's a way you can counter this counter. Absolutely. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed the video. And if you're feeling especially charitable today, I would absolutely appreciate a like. And if you're feeling absolutely saintly, maybe even a cheeky subscription. But even if you don't do either of those things, I still hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.